Hi, Holly. We'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fang. I am the president of the Singapore FinTech Association, the national body that bridges the gap between the regulators and the industry, presenting the voices of our members. In my day job, I work at Aspire. I am the global head of network. That's the team that's responsible for building up the financial infrastructure of FIs like banks, partner networks that powers Aspire's product suites.
So let's talk about ASEAN as a region to begin with. What do you think is the biggest barrier today to financial integration in the ASEAN region?
So ASEAN, as a region, we are very, very complex. We're made up of 11 different markets, each with its own jurisdiction, its own licensing regime, its own payment rails, its own data localization rules. And that makes it a very difficult region to navigate as a whole. For companies looking to enter into this region, they have to customize solutions for every single market. And I think that's really the biggest challenge. So despite the huge potential, we, I think, have close to 700 million in terms of population size, making us maybe the third largest market outside of India and China. But despite that potential, it is quite difficult to unlock. I don't think there is a single fintech today that can say that they're operating in every single ASEAN market. And I think we're sitting right in the middle of an opportunity where if we all work together to turn competition into co-creation to unlock the synergies across, including maybe say standards for data sharing, maybe more bilateral and more like multilateral linkages for payment infrastructure that could really help to unlock the next phase of digital growth.
Excellent. And that's the vision that M-DAQ is going to market with, which is to build single connectivity to all of ASEAN. And in this process, how do you see local partnerships playing out in terms of bringing together this ASEAN region?
So I think local partnerships is critical for to bridge the gap between regulations and innovation. For fintechs looking to enter into a new market on their own, it is very, very difficult and very challenging to navigate a completely different licensing regime, a different banking infrastructure. So it is critical imperative for fintechs to work with local regulators, to work with local banks, local payment service providers, as well as local ecosystem partners.
And how is, in your experience with SFA, have you seen any interesting use cases of how partnerships have been used to bridge this gap?
So actually at SFA, our work is to build and to connect. We do a fair bit of business matchmaking, whether it's internally within Singapore, using fintech as an enabler and bring us into conversations for different industry verticals, or to bring our members overseas on mission trips. So we brought them to markets within Southeast Asia, to further markets like the Middle East. And we do that by working very closely with partners on the ground. That includes our partner fintech associations that can help us to also link up with their central banks, that can help us to link us up with their local banks and local payment networks.
Excellent. Then moving on to payments and sort of the actual end users, right? What do you think today is the most underrated, underestimated friction point in the cross-border payment ecosystem?
I would say, and this is a very timely question, because the Singapore FinTech Association just launched our Down Without Borders reports last week. And that's done in partnership with Visa, with MasterCard, and the ASEAN Bankers Association. So we surveyed over 100 fintechs and financial institutions to ask them about challenges operating cross-border. And they actually named data, so restrictions around data sharing, to be one of the main hurdles to expand to multiple markets, to help them to adopt global tech tools. In terms of, say, AI adoption is all a hurdle because within ASEAN, every market has some degree of data localization, and some can be quite extreme. And it makes it very, very difficult for companies to navigate. When it comes to about payments, it's actually not just about money movement. It's also about data movement. With every single transaction, it carries with it a lot of information. So it's not just about at the level of transaction monitoring, but when say things go wrong in terms of compliance monitoring or even say fraud prevention, these data restrictions, they really severely impact the way that fintechs operate.
True. And how do you see B2B platforms and fintechs in general that you work with, how are they transforming this experience for the end users or the end businesses in how they operate across markets?
So I think B2B payment companies are truly transforming the way that businesses can expect money to be moved. SWIFT. A lot of payment companies now are building their own payment infrastructure that allows them to bypass legacy rails and similar systems like SWIFT. Increasingly, we're also seeing payment companies directly integrating into local payment schemes, and with further reducing the number of intermediaries involved. And when you reduce the number of intermediaries, you're reducing friction. And it means then that our businesses, our customers, operating anywhere, they can have a very much localized payment experience, even though that fund is actually moving cross-border. That's at the infrastructure layer. On top of that, a lot of fintechs are also embedding financial workflows, automated solutions to complete the whole financial tech stack from software to infrastructure. So SMBs, businesses, they're able to stay within the ecosystem that the fintech provides and solve all of their financial workflow needs within one system.
Yes, the single financial OS is truly coming together.
OS.
Yes. And my last question to you is, as an architect, an important architect of fintech, what is the most vital foundational element you believe will truly solve for ASEAN's financial infrastructure?
So to me, I would say connectivity built on interoperability. Because like I said, I think ASEAN has tremendous potential. But the problem is that we are very much fragmented. And when you have every single country within the 11 ASEAN member states having its own payment regimes, its own payment rails, its own data localization requirements, it is frankly very difficult to unlock the full potential of the region. And so I would say the most important thing is connectivity, and that will require public sector partnerships. That will also require various stakeholders, so fintechs, larger FIs, fintech associations like the Singapore FinTech Association, and central banks coming together, working together on standardization, on harmonization to help to reduce friction for cross-border, whether it's flow of money or flow of data.